Brodes Media.
Wow, I did not expect to wake up and see that news even after John Tortorella's awful press conference. I thought they would at least wait until the end of the season to can his ass. And yes, it's very important to highlight, they fired his ass. The fact that there are some reports out there saying he stepped down, no. Danny Briere and Keith Jones were obviously very aggravated with the way that he spoke to the media. Hold on, my alarms are going off. See, I worked a shift last night till 2 a.m., came home around 2:45, fell asleep around 3:30. My eyes somewhat randomly opened around 9 o'clock, and I was tired as shit. And I see John Tortorella, no longer Flyers head coach, and my brain almost exploded. So that's where I'm at right now. This is really instant reaction stuff here. But, man, what he said after that god-awful loss to Toronto, that, quote, he's not interested in learning how to coach this type of season where we are at right now. Yo, dude, what did you expect being a coach of a rebuild? This team was always going to stink. They were going to sell off assets. They were going to prioritize gaining a bunch of draft capital to start over. That was always part of this long-term plan. And now, as you are, year 3 into this? You go, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, I guess he got here under the Chuck Fletcher regime a little bit, but once it started to flip the gears into the Danny Briere, Keith Jones stuff, you knew exactly where this was going to go. Whatever happened to we're going to build this the right way. We're not going to skip any steps. We're going to make sure we do it proper. It may take some time, but when you really do it and you stay with the structure, you're going to get the benefit by the end. Now he's got no interest. I mean, that shows you he wanted to be done. He wanted to say goodbye. He wanted nothing to do with this. And the ironic part is how much noise with him going into the front office was there? How much noise? There was something to that. No longer. We want nothing to do with you. So Big Balls Danny Briere stepped up and said, I'm not playing any games. I don't want to hear it for a second, Torts. He even put out a statement. Today, I made the very difficult decision to move on from John as our head coach. John played a vital role in our rebuild. He set a standard of play and reestablished what it means to be a Flyer, blah, blah, blah. He's giving you a little bit of some random GM speak there. John's passion on the bench was equaled by his charity work, and I'm not downplaying that type of stuff. I do think he was good for the community and all, but I think it's very important to note, today I made the very difficult decision to move on from John, while there are some on the other side saying that he was relieved of his duties to try and lessen the blow. The Flyers wanted it to be known that it went this way. The Flyers wanted it to be known. That's why everyone's going, well, how come they didn't wait until 4:05 if they wanted a real news dump? I don't think they wanted a news dump. Yes, they did play into the opening day with the Phillies to some level, but they did it at 9 a.m. because they don't want it to get lost in the sauce and think it was maybe a mutual respect. That gives John Tortorella respect to try and hide it from the public and put it right in the middle of the first Phillies game of the season. That's showing John Tortorella respect. I think this just so happened to fall on opening day because of when Tortorella said what he said, but let's do it early enough where there is buzz. Because Danny B and Keith Jones wants to make a statement. And I actually heard Keith Jones on WIP on this most recent Saturday with Rob Ellis and Mike Sealski, and he was getting asked all sorts of questions about Mitch Koff and how John Tortorella has handled Mitch Koff. Do they agree? Do they disagree? And I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but Jonesy said something along the lines of, there are times when he makes decisions, and I don't really know if that's the best way to do it, but then when I wait, I see that Mitch Koff maybe was a little fatigued, and he responds with a couple of nice games after a benching, or, you know, he makes a certain decision, and then somebody responds, and then I guess he has to sit back, he being Keith Jones and recognize, hey, maybe there was something to that. But he admitted that he doesn't always see eye to eye with the way John Tortorella is handling things. Once you know that's where the president of hockey ops is, then there's already some version of discourse happening from top to bottom. And it's probably not shocking. We know the John Tortorella experience eventually does flame out. And think about it. They are getting absolutely dominated night in and night out. They allowed 7 goals to Chicago. Chicago sucks. You're getting your ass absolutely mollywopped by a Chicago Blackhawks team. What happened last season? They just ran out of fuel. They ran out of gas. He wears you down so much that by the end, you have nothing to give. You may be the best in shape for week 1. You may be the best in shape when other teams are competing in the playoffs, so their respected off seasons are a little bit shorter. But what happens once you get to the back half? You sell off some of your better players, although let's not act as if Scott Lawton's Wayne Gretzky, although I know they like to think that. You know, they got rid of some guys at the deadline. Eric Johnson. I mean, Eric Johnson and Scott Lawton's the difference in you allowing 7 goals in back-to-back games, 14 goals in the last 2 games. I mean, it's just not the case. So he does grind you out where by the end you have nothing left to give. And I think that's now back-to-back seasons where you miss that little potential overachieving season, which maybe ended up for the best, if we're being honest, now that we see the cause and effect of it all, and then, you know, where they are now. So I think it's the right move. It's the right decision. Now it's about what are they going to do after this season ends. Forget what they're doing in the interim here. That really doesn't mean much to me. It's more about what guy they get next. Is this a Sullivan situation where the Pittsburgh Penguins elect to move on from him and they try and rebrand the Pittsburgh Penguins a bit with some of their older guys and whatnot, and they're trying to just, who cares? I don't give a shit about the Penguins. But I'm just saying, if they do get rid of their head coach, maybe that's a route that they go. I've talked to a couple people who are within the know, and they're not saying anything as sexy as, yes, it's going to be him, but his name has popped up a couple of different times with a couple of different people that I know are talking to some. So for whatever that's worth, do you want to go the college route and go after Denver's head coach, who I know everybody's excited about? I don't know. I mean, I'm a little bit scarred looking at North Dakota and going the Dave Hackstall route. Is now the time to go with an inexperienced NHL coach? Now, I don't think they're going to, but I know that's someone who is intriguing. All right, so it's clear that he ticked people off on the way out. Again, I can't imagine a world where a head coach is going through a rebuild and he truly feels obligated to say, I'm not interested in learning how to coach this type of season. That's the job. That's the gig. That's the role. And it's been the job. It's been the role where your team's going to get clapped night in and night out for most part. You were going to be a top of the draft type of team. So was there a disconnect? The one argument that can be made, and it's a silly one, if John Tortorella took this path without thinking about how it could backfire, but I do respect the idea of it, but the execution was just piss poor and costing his job, if this is what he was trying to do. Did he want to make it about him and less about the players? Did he want to take the blame and take the shots? My team's getting worked. And Sam Ersson, Fedotov, our goalies suck. Cam York is getting benched. And by the way, we'll get into that whole thing because I still can't imagine a world where you have Cole Caulfield, who scored 101 goals in one season. I'm going to say it again. 101 goals in one season. And they decided, no, thank you. I don't want that kid. Okay. I mean, he's just popping 30 left and right. He's just a stud. But I digress. I mean, I would like to have a 5'7", 30 goal scoring wing right now. Yeah, I said 5'7", damn it. Danny Briere, I'm sure, would like to see that too, because you know that can work and be productive in this league. But I digress. That was a different time. That was a different era. That was one of the dumbest general managers in the history of the sport in Chuck Fletcher. Instead of talking about Cam York's benching, the minutes that he sat, instead of talking about the horrendous goaltending, we're now freaking out about John Tortorella. So he's protecting his guys in a way. But he went about it the wrong way. And John Tortorella's been around coaching for so long that if he was going to take that road, I think he would have done it more in a polished way. I do. I think he would have done that more in a polished way if that's what he was trying to get done. Unless he just had a uh-oh. But do you think this front office, Jonesy, Briere, if he truly did make a mistake on the messaging, would just snip him this strongly? Would try and play the battle game with the media and try and play leverage? Because right now, that's what's happening. It's he said, she said. Well, they didn't really fire me. No, we fired you. And they want to be loud and obnoxious about it, the Flyers, that is. So there was turmoil. This created controversy where it wasn't some pretty open-door discussion. Hey, Torts, come on in, man. How's it going? How's your coffee this morning? It was, what the fuck was that?